Hello, everybody. Hey, we got somebody in here. I don't like talking unless I know somebody's gonna be here. It is sorry, cinnamon candy. It is December 31st, and the last day of 2020. I have mixed feelings about 2020. I'm sure many others do as well. But this is it. This is the last day. So, like I posted on my little one-liner here, 2020 is so salty that when we say 2021, it will sound like we were saying that 2021. So it's a lose-lose situation with 2020. And who blames them? But we do have old car magazines, old car magazines, vintage car magazines, several different years. Street Machine, Carcraft, Import Car Boom, 1971. What else we got? Let me look. We got a Carcraft from 1974. We got some van action here. Hot Rodding from 1976. Right here. And if you want me to go through some of these, I will be glad to do that. Carcraft 1974. Funky pickups and wheels. Carcraft 1976 vans and trucks. That's how big this stuff was back at that time. Carcraft was highlighting them pretty heavily. And as far as restoration parts, do you all remember? I'll get my original one here. The Paddock, Nicetown, Indiana. Kind of like a smaller Year One of Classic Industries. Don't hear a lot about Year One anymore. I'm sure they're still out there. Actually, my aunt worked for Year One. She lived in Georgia. Manuel, how you doing, buddy? Glad you made it. I guess you'd be the first to say anything since I opened the chat. So, Mopar said something earlier than Tales from the Junkyard. So hopefully they can make it. We got a handful of people in here right now, so thank you for joining up. We got Mark with us, fellow Hoosier, and like I said, I got magazines here. Yeah, still have a Paddock. I actually visited the Paddock. I'd say about 1997, 98, somewhere in there. It was only about 10 miles from where I grew up. And we went down there and they had some cool t-shirts, bought some t-shirts. And we went in their showroom. They had a nice little selection of stuff. Roadkill's with us. Thanks for coming along. And Roadkill, actually, you mentioned Petty Blue last night. And funny you should mention that. I saw, this is one of my favorite cars back in the day. I'll find the article there. I'll show you. It was like an A-body issue and a high-performance moped. Paul Cow. I don't think I ever had Paul Cow. I had the Year One, and then I had the Paddock. Then the Paddock went out of business. I think they floundered all their money away. Right here. 73 Dart Sport. At the time, this is 1999. He was the original owner. I know it's not the easiest to see, but it was a 340 car. I think it was a 3 or 4 speed, I think. and the guy that owned it lived in Michigan, and he added on some stuff. Or the Dodge called it Super Blue. Plymouth called it Petty Blue, but that's the same color. TB3, I know that. Yeah, even a lot of the restoration parts back in the late 90s, although then, I mean, yeah, I guess you figure inflation, the prices of that stuff don't look bad now. Yeah. Actually, this guy here on the cover, he lived about a half a mile down the road from me. And the way I didn't know him, but I figured it out one day because, this is all the cars in here was kind of a local thing, East Central Indiana. And I saw the car going by our house one day. It was like a 73 or 74 Roadrunner, like an icy blue color, maybe a B7 or something like that. And I went by and I saw it, and it looked like this guy driving it. I'm like, that looks like that guy. And my dad said, oh, I think I've seen it down there at this one house. And when you went by, you saw this garage right here, those windows. So I knew where he lived. Awesome. Yeah, I have. If it's a Roku, I have a Roku. Actually, my wife bought me back when we were dating a few years ago, and it's pretty cool. You can put all the different streaming services on it, like Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Tubi, and all those other ones, and they got their own network, Roku. But if it's not the same, it's one of them very similar. Happy New Year, John. Let's see. Try to pull something interesting out of these magazines. Oh, this one's from 1980. The 70s were kind of wild. They could be good, they could be bad. But it seemed like around 1980 things started going a little sideways. Well, for instance, this vet. This vet's actually pretty cool. It's got the plexiglass hood scoop on it. And I think it was an L motor. I'm not sure. It's a 68 vet, inch rat motor, 60-inch bore, or over 6 bore. Half-inch or quarter-inch stroke, a wreath crank, Chevy Good Guys rods, Venolia pistons, and Ramco double Molly rings. B&M shift kit, all that sort of thing. Look at the flares on them. All massaged into the bodywork. The only place that it looks okay, but the only place I think it doesn't look good is right here. That transition just looks odd. Like you want it to. I like them to wrap in a little bit. What is the Telegram app? Is that on the phone? Is it on the phone? Yeah. And there's one in here, which if you say that's cheesy, you can take your Chevy Love, like a 72.5 Chevy Love, to a 79 with rectangle headlights for the look of the 80s. Put the plastic chrome grille in it. Shows you how to do it. And cheesy Camaro. And then you got goofy stuff like this. The Rocky Mountain Volkswagen Rabbit. It's covered rear windows. I'll have to look up Telegram app. Actually, it kind of sounds familiar when you say it's like a sharing thing. Let's see. Yes, all capital letters, deadline. Sure. Yeah, seeing as we're doing the suspension on it, or the steering, I should say. Suspension's probably fine. I mean, it's a 3/4 ton truck. But the steering gear, I cleaned up the steering box today. It's pretty much ready to go. We got the old rag joint off of it. It was rusted on. So I can get that in, hook that up to the suspension. I got to get my inner tie rods, which are in transit right now. Last I checked, they was in New Jersey. And the fuel line situation's all done. And let's see. I do need to get weather strip on all the doors. That's every one of the doors. Otherwise, it's going to be an air leaky mess. So we got the 2 rear doors, 2 side doors, and then the 2 passenger doors, driver and passenger doors. That's kind of important. Other than that, just some little here and there stuff. But I would say, yeah, it could be done by March and maybe have some new wheels and tires on. I got the wheels, obviously, but we need to get some tires. All 4 are dry rotted on what's on there now. So a little bit of if the money flows good, yeah. I mean, I don't have all the parts. I do need to get the weather strip, and they are a little pricey. You know how weather strip is. It's a little, and when you need that much of it. So if I get all that together, we should be good. And as far as the drivetrain, I'm probably going to replace the gasket on the oil pan on the transmission because it looks like it just has leaked for years or something. And I need to put a yoke seal on the rear end because it's coated the underside right there in that little area on the floor where it's let loose and slung it up all over. But that's no big deal. Hey, Lunar. Yeah, my mini-me. Money flows. Yeah, if money flows good. It doesn't flow good, but if it flows good. We need like exhaust headers for money. I mean, it goes out. Coming in, maybe not so good. Happy New Year, Lunar. Wild and crazy year. Let's see. You ever heard of Krager headers? Krager used to have their own headers. Blue Power. Dog Star Studios, I think I know who you are. Same to you. Looking at some old magazines. Actually, this one is from June of 1971. Let's see. Stereo 8-track. Oh yeah, J.C. Penney's. 3 on the floor and 4 on the car. Old steel slotted mags, chrome plated. This one was like a preview for the drag funny car races and stuff that year. And quite a thick issue. Yeah. They kind of look like the chrome wheels they put on the Dodge Street vans in the late 70s. They've been the same source. Oh yeah. Oh, the glass pack advertisements and these things was crazy. There were so many different ones back then. You had the Big Daddy. Sounds as much like no muffler as any muffler can. Big Daddy expandable muffler. Keystones. I'd like to put keystones on the Duster, but you know what? The last couple of years they have not extended their sizes like they used to have. I would say 10 years ago they had you get all different the reverse style and the different offsets, but they've like condensed it down to 2 or 3 styles. So I might have to go through a different supplier, which is weird. But the bad thing about Keystones and Kragers, they're all made in like China now, and you get a little bit of a quality issue on some of them sometimes, and that's unfortunate. Yeah, I've had some of these magazines. This one in particular, I've had it for about 20 years. I bought it for like $3 at a what you call it, a flea market. Like here's part of the funny car preview. Here's the Pontiac. Well, Krager bought the Keystone brand of wheels, but see, the Keystone was originally just general aftermarket for cars, like body panel, pump. Now they still do stuff under the Keystone name. Sometimes you'll see a Keystone logo somewhere, and it's actually a dealer for like rehabbed plastic bumper shells and all that stuff. Well, the wheel division, they sold them to Krager, but I think somebody else owns Krager, but they market it all under the Krager name. You know how they do. No, I didn't. I will say that by the time I was really getting into cars, we had already moved down to southern Indiana. So I've really, it's been unfortunate. I haven't been able to be a part of a lot of the central Indiana car scene, particularly in Indy. I mean, I've been to the Hot Rod Nationals and stuff like that, or the U.S. Nationals. I'm sorry. I've been to the U.S. Nationals and been obviously to the Indy 500, but I'm kind of looking to when we get the van done and even the other car, the Duster, uh, getting around more. And I know they probably don't do a lot of that stuff, but there's a lot of events that are happening all over, so it's good to be part of that team. Yeah, the center hole on, yeah, exactly. Well, one problem I had when I had my Challenger, I had bought a set of Keystones for it, and I remember rolling into our driveway one afternoon, and the car was pretty quiet other than the glass packs I had on it. But when you're rolling up to a stop, I can hear this ching 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 ching. Well, I get out and I'm looking at the car and I'm thinking it sounds like it's on the outside of the car, and sure enough, one of the center caps, I know it's different from what you were seeing. The center caps, they had that where they like spotted it, the little retainer to the inside of the cap, and then when you put the cap in, you kind of turn it in there and screw it down. Well, it completely just popped off, and I lost the center cap, and then I had to go find another center cap. I had to like pay another $25 for the stupid thing. So there's little quality issues like that, and some of them I know people get them and they're not really, they're not completely centered, or they need to put a bunch of wheel weights, that kind of stuff on that balance. My daily driver is just a 2010 Camaro I bought a few years ago. I used to have a Chrysler 300M that was a daily, and we put so many miles on that thing, it finally just, I think the timing belt snapped on it. So I just went out and I was going to go buy a Challenger, but the availability around here was really short, and I just needed to get a car. So I ended up buying this Camaro, and I've had good luck and I've had bad luck with that. So, here we go. Side pipes, the outsiders. I saw about 7 sets of these in Louisville back in February at the slot. They're aluminum, all aluminum. Now, Scooter, if you're still there, one thing I kind of enjoyed when I would go to Mopar Nationals, I know they had them in Indy, but like I said, when I really started being able to go on my own and stuff, that's when they moved it to Columbus, Ohio. So we go there, and at the Red Roof Inn down there near the interstate, they would have burnouts, and the people that ran the Red Roof Inn encouraged it. They had such good business or something from that weekend, they didn't mind repaving or resealing the blacktop every year, and it was just smoke pouring out of that parking lot all weekend long. It was crazy. Yeah, sometimes the now the aluminum ones aren't as bad, but some of the chromed side pipes, they are really bad for burning people's legs when they stick their leg on it. That's awesome, Scooter. I know the east side was pretty well established. There was a lot of people over there that had some good cars. So if he was winning races on the east side, for sure. I know the west side was pretty strong too. I guess depending on the era. Let's see. There's Cherry Bomb, Urban Speed Pack mufflers. Oh yeah, here's the old Can Thunder style. The Thrushes came in these too. Golden Goose mufflers, and they did have the cartoon printed on the side of the muffler. Late 70s, early, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, Indy is really a good. It's a good. It's actually a good Mopar town. I mean, I think a lot of people think it's really GM, but maybe it's from my perspective because when you live near Louisville, Kentucky, it is very Ford because they have big Ford plants over there, and it's Ford, 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 and so from that perspective, when you go back to Indy, it is very Mopar friendly. So they have the swap meets there is always really good, and I know people come from all around, but it's just a good community for Mopar specific. Really, I'm sure all of them. But there's no purple Horties in this one. I don't know if they was actually out yet. I don't know when those came out. I want to say it was probably the early '70s, but if they was around the '60s, I'd be kind of surprised. Purple Hornies are the best sounding. They tend to be louder though because they make them so short. If they made them longer, you would have an excellent sound, but it would be a little bit more mellow. Yeah, Kokomo. See, I was born in Newcastle, and yeah, wasn't it the Chrysler foundry in Indy? Wasn't it a block casting plant? Like I said, I was from Newcastle, and we had a forge there. It was the old Maxwell facility from the 19 teens, zeros, and they did a lot of steering knuckles and stuff in Newcastle. But it ran that town much the way Kokomo was run by it until they eventually left town. And to this day, you can go through Newcastle and you might still see a Duster or a Dart running around as a daily driver, which was the case about 2 years ago. I saw two of them in one day upon a visit. And they had like 15 or 16 GM plants, and they're all gone now, and it pretty much devastated Anderson. Muncie had some GM plants. I don't know if it was more than one, but I think wasn't that where they built the Muncie uh, transmissions at? I mean, it would make sense in Muncie. Yeah, the Rock Crusher. That's right. Yeah, Newcastle would be about 15 miles south, 20 miles south of Muncie. Yeah, we used to go to Muncie quite a bit. So that pretty much, up to that whole area, it's like, the Rust Belt, I guess they call it, and all your industrial cities. And My dad, he worked for Dana Corporation, Perfect Circle, which was the same. He started out in Newcastle right after he got married in the late 60s, but then they closed the plant soon after that. But then they transferred him to Richmond, which is, for you that don't know, Richmond was probably, it was on the state line, like if he was going towards Dayton. And he worked there and he retired from there. Yeah, Manuel has a VW. What year was that? Did you say a 1980? Was it in the late 1980s? Yeah, apparently they cast all the Hemi blocks in Indianapolis, and most of the muscle car era. That's what my friend Kyle informed me. So he knows a little bit more of what specifically came out of Indianapolis. And I did work with a guy in Louisville who was from Hartford City, Indiana, and his dad worked at I think it was the Kokomo Chrysler plant. Lunar, is the satellite down right now, or was there something missing? I remember you had it running with the pipes on it a while back. Okay, Manuel's got the VW, the 1992 model, made in Brazil, imported to Mexico. I think the last VW, at least the Bugs, that was in the United States, wasn't it like 1978, something somewhere in there. I know they kept making them though, but as far as the United States, it was kind of a different situation. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm getting all. I forgot you took it back out, so it's going back up the neck. Now, is your the transport? You said that he was supposed to show up several times, and he never did. Are you still getting that, or are they actually gonna follow through? And if any of you guys aren't familiar with Lunar, I know we have a handful of people. Lunar has got a really cool channel. He's really helped me out as far as getting subs and getting noticed. But he has quite a few projects, and they're all very different. They run the spectrum. But he's got a 72 satellite Sebring, 318. They took the engine out and they took it down to Uncle Tony's, and that turned into kind of a soap opera on Tony's end, really. And but dealing with Nick up out of Montreal, Nick's really a really precise type of person, and I think he's taking care of Lunar on getting this thing dynoed. But since the COVID and the lockdowns the way they are, he's not been able to just take it up there because they got the border locked up. So he's got to try to ship it across the border, and that's not happening because the shipping company is not coming through. Yeah, running the gambit. Yeah, you got like a V10 RAM swap that you're going, and your 81 or 82 RAM. You've got the 72 satellite. You've got your, is that a 70 or 71 model Buick GS? Uh, you had some Supras. I feel like I'm leaving one out. You got the Cadillac. Yes, you've got a lot going on. Yeah, all that stuff going on the border. It's just, and who knows when they're going to open any of that up. Now we have a new strain of COVID, so it's going to lock even more stuff down. It's endless. I guess we're all contaminated as a race. Yeah, out of the price range. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But um, I can't appreciate how meticulous he is about stuff and how he knows this stuff really well, for sure. Who needs sleep? Me? I probably do. The little boy gets me up at about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock the last few mornings. Plus, I'm a night owl. I like to stay up late, or I just naturally stay up late. So. Yeah, pretty much. I just think it's just another sickness that you know they say, well, these people are dying young. They keep wanting to push. Well, the younger people are dying from. Well, younger people die from the flu. Younger people die from strokes. Younger people die from heart attacks every day. It's just that it's under a magnifying glass right now, and we're really, it's really made out there. I've watched Musty too. I was watching for a while there that orange Ford pickup truck, like it looks like the Dodge A100 pickup, light duty truck, and he was doing some pretty good metal work on that. He had the brake and everything, and long form videos, which is cool. But he has a lot of followers. It's crazy, and then he'll pull in a lawnmower the next week and fix it. And it's like everything that they say not to do on a YouTube channel, but he has more subscribers than pretty much anybody. Lunar, you take care. Have a good night. My neighbor, he was the one that was in the fuel system video. Rob, he got COVID here about 2 weeks ago, maybe actually about 3 weeks ago now. And he said all he had was he had trouble breathing for like one afternoon. It's like, I had trouble breathing, so I just went and took it easy. And they said they made him go get tested, and he got tested. And they said he was on the downhill of it. And then the CDC started calling him and asking him, well, where have you been? What have you been doing? And you're good. And do you have any questions? He said, I'm good now, right? I've got it, and I've had it, and I'm good. They go, well, you could get it again, but as a mutated version. And he goes, well, okay, can I get that now? They go, well, no, probably in about 3 months. But within this 3 month period, you're still contagious. And he asked him, he said, well, what about this 14-day quarantine period? They go, no, you're still contagious in 3 months. So it's like you don't know who to listen to. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And some people they get it worse than others. The musician Jackson Brown, he had it back in like right when the whole thing hit. I think in April, and he didn't realize he had it. He just said he had like cold symptoms, like he was coughing and sneezing a little bit. Got tested, because he had to travel somewhere, and sure enough, he ended up having COVID, and he got over it pretty quick, so he was fine. And he's in his 70s. So. Yeah, they don't know really what it's subject to opinion, and maybe each person is different. Maybe each person can hold it differently, and it's not just a big universal thing. But the wait time on it's kind of weird when they say 14 days and then 3 months. It's like that's a big difference there. I'll be right back, guys. Yeah, I heard that Marianne from Gilligan's Island. And then again, she was 82 years old. And I'm one of those people. I'll like the mask and all this stuff. I will wear a mask anywhere that I need to wear a mask. But there's some people I know who will not wear a mask, not wear a mask anywhere, and then they pretty much at the expense of what they say. I don't want to be controlled, but it's funny. Like when you go too far the other way, you're actually being controlled. They won't wear a mask, and then they end up never being able to go anywhere because they have this like pride issue. But I'll go in, wear it for a minute, and sit down and take it off. But I don't see how they really help. I mean, if somebody sneezes on you from across the room, it's going to hit you, and you're going to take it with you. So you still get it one way or the other. Yeah, or you'll take off somewhere and you'll forget it at home. So I try to keep one in the car, and it's wild. Yeah, my niece uh, complained a while back of not having any taste for like 2 days, but nothing besides that was wrong with her. She said she didn't even go get tested, and she's like 17 years old, I think. She's like, yeah, I just didn't taste anything for 2 days, and I wondered if I had it, and then the rest of the family was fine. Yeah, mask to certain degrees can. I guess the emissions that some people put out on their own, and depending on where their mask has been, they can definitely get sick. I'm just surprised that as many people that wear masks, certain ones that wear the mask all the time end up getting it. So I don't know what does that tell us? It tells us something. Oh yeah, if you got asthma, yeah, you probably already have enough trouble getting regular air as it is. Tales from the Junkyard. Hey, glad you can make it. I saw your message earlier. What time is it there in California? About 7 o'clock or so? Okay, make sure you check out what Scooter said. This is free advice. If you get COVID, please take a buffered baby aspirin for 30 days post-recovery. A lot of people are dying post-recovery from blood clots causing strokes and heart attacks. Is a lot of those blood clots like in the lungs and all that? I know people have the lung scarring and that sort of issue. Seven, yeah, okay. About 3 hours difference here. Good to know. My wife is a nurse, works at a hospital, and they have a COVID unit. And it's interesting how a lot of the doctors that deal with it daily will have like their you can how do I word it? They have their own personal viewpoint on how to handle it. And it's much like that. They suggest just doing this, or kind of falls in line with what Scooter said. But I mean, if you listen to the news and the media, it's very you get told that it's all going to get bad and worse. And I heard today they said by January 21st, I think, that there were so many allotted deaths that they guarantee are going to happen. Wow, that makes you feel good. Sure thing, Tails. That is you do really clean installations on your vehicles, and I like that. You like the one thing you did on yours. You was talking about making things reversible. I like doing that kind of stuff too, because if your heart changes later, or you got to sell it, but whatever you put in there is not maybe for the masses, and you can return it back to the way it is expected, then you make it really easy to do that. That's what I like, that kind of stuff where it's giving you an out, basically. Or, if something does happen to what you have, then you can easily just go back. You don't have to just completely rework everything just to return it. And so you got clean installations, and just taking the time to get all the sensors and anything, sending units and all that stuff right. That's a big deal. I even did that on a Camaro I had. I put the digital gauges in it, but I made the pigtail to where you could swap it back out. And I ran all the wiring as a harness by itself from the gauges. And then I just made it where you plugged it into the factory harness. But if you wanted to go back to the original gauges for whatever reason, all you had to do is just remove that connector and put an original one back on there. And it was good to go. We've got a few new subscriptions today, which is pretty cool. I don't know if it's because we did the chat last night. I don't think chats usually do that much, but we got a few of them. So if any of you are new, welcome to the channel. We're just doing I don't do a lot of chats, but the last 2 nights we've done them. They get pretty cool. We got a great group of people. There's 2 cars that I really like. My early, let's say one of my first cars that I really wanted, I wanted a 68 Charger, much like the one you see in Bullet, the black one. And if you offered me a black 68 Charger, I would take it over any other color. So I like the 68 Charger. I even like the hubcaps that was on it with the red. I actually have a set out there in the garage just because of it. I like them. They look like mag wheels. So either 68 Charger. I love Challengers. I had a 74. It's hard to say. I might say I like a 71 Challenger. And both of these cars, I guess you could say, have a 440 or even a 383. I like good driving cars. I'm not so much onto they have to be the fastest thing, or they gotta have the most power. I just like a good all-around car. So it could be a 383 Charger, 68 Charger, or even like a 71 Challenger, 383, plum crazy purple. But I do love Dusters though, and I have a 72 now. I like the long tail lights on them. It's hard to say. I mean, there's a B, E, and A body right there. But if I had to pick among all, it might be the Challenger. Might be the 71 or so Challenger. But I try not to have a pinnacle car. I just like to try to appreciate them all. And Tails, I think, sounds like he understands it. Yeah, they said that Charger in the when they was filming it was running circles around that Mustang, and they had to beef up the suspension, I think, in the Mustang, and then kind of hop the engine up because the Charger was just too much. Yeah, Mopar. It seems like I have a magazine article on a silver 68 or 69 that sounds very much like that. They had a 5-speed in it, and it was like had the 17-inch wheels on it, and it was a handling car. I want to say it was silver and had a red tail strap. 70 Fury GT. I've seen a few of those. I think the Monaco was kind of a similar, the body style at least. But a Fury GT, one of these magazines here, I've got an article on one that had a 440 and maybe even a 6-pack on it. It was like a cream color and had a tan interior. Had the 15-inch road wheels. Pretty neat car. C bodies are typically these kind of big slinky cars, but they had some good ones there when they just wanted to make like a performance version. Especially when they got in around 69, 70, they got bigger, longer. I wish I could remember what I got in the magazine. I'm looking at the stack that it's in, but I can't remember what that was in. Oh, one thing. We talked about prices earlier on this restoration stuff. We look at the Paddock magazine. It's got a 1997 date on it. Let me confirm that. Yeah, it looks like 1997. One thing that hasn't changed much in just over 20 years is the price of molded carpet. I know sometimes you will run into it for about 130, but if you look a little harder, you can usually find that same price, about 110. Yeah, Roadkill. That was Bill Hickman. That was his name in real life. Um, he was like, I think, one of the top stunt drivers of the time. The 7-Up car chase was a really cool car chase because one, you had him driving the enemy car, but then you had Roy Scheider driving just like kind of an oddball car. It wasn't a Nova, and it wasn't a Mustang, and it wasn't a Camaro, or it wasn't a even a Cuda or a Challenger. It was just this oddball Pontiac Ventura. Yeah, and the funniest part is when he uh, took a shotgun and blew the hood off of it, and they said that the car getting decapitated under the tractor trailer was complete accident, and they got it on film, but it was actually an accident. And Roy Scheider knew how to respond or how to act after seeing the guy respond, the stunt driver. They said he got up real slow like that, had all the glasses on. He didn't like jump up and freak out or anything. He just got up real slow, and he was probably like in shock. And actually, the junkyard I went to the other day, when we went through the other day, the second time, there was a Ventura in there. It was that same. I don't know if his was a hatchback, but there was a hatchback Ventura in there, and the car was not in bad shape. It was one of the better cars that was in that junkyard. So it was like a 73 or 74 body style, but it was a Ventura. I remember looking, I'm like, oh, yeah, I saw the Pontiac. That's a Ventura. (2002, 2003), no problem. I might have it. I have a lot of them up till about 05, and I quit buying them for a while. I think I started getting into like I'd find the old magazines and kind of got into those. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, and it was a hatchback. I think it was a cream color body. It was like mostly complete too. I mean, I didn't look for an engine, but it had the windows were up, so it was sealed up, and it had all the interior in it. And might even be worth pulling out. Let's see. So I'm looking at different parts here. Some of this stuff they don't carry anymore because it was like the old, early stuff that they probably wouldn't pass muster now, and they've improved it. Headliners for about $65. Um, let's see. Vinyl tops for 60. All the decals. Stripe kits were probably much more affordable then. Let's find one here. Let's find one. 70 AAR Cuda gloss black stripe kit, $189. I want to say they're about $300 now, and it's the same material, die cut vinyl. The billboard stripes, $179 or $180, and that was any color and any call out. 343, 440, and 20. Red 72 GTX. Let me see if I have that. I'm gonna look. That sounds familiar. I've got two big stacks here. Let's see if it's not in there. That sounds familiar when you said that red GTX. So some of these are from Mopar Action. That's 21.9. There's a purple duster, by the way. Let's see. $2,000, 1998, 2001, 99. Remember these? Mopar Collector's Guide. Kind of an odd magazine. Interesting, though. May have been Mopar Action. Okay. We'll look. I got both. And I got Mopar Action, Mopar Muscle. I got another stack I have to look through. I thought I had another stack. Maybe I don't. I may not have that one. But it does sound familiar. Like I maybe did. I may have owned it somewhere. Hey, what's going on, G? What up, G? Since I have all these others out. Mopar Nut. Do you have this one? It's May 9th. Let's see. Not bad. June 1997. Hey, if you got a van question, fire away. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can't. Cuddy Garage, do you ever do rendering drawings for other people? Yeah, I can. We'll either do it through the this what do we call it, the giveaway sweepstakes things I did here. Mopar Nut won the one here a while back with the Charger in it. So I'm going to do more of those in the future. But offhand, if you want one, I am pretty busy with my day work. I'm self-employed, and I can do it for a fee. But if you are interested in that, you can send me an email, and I'll just go ahead and put my email here. Big detail on. The Steely wheels. Are you asking where I got them at? Okay. Wheel Vintiques is the manufacturer of those. They're called Series 63. You'll probably want to write that down. Series 63 Mopar through Wheel Vintiques, and they have different sizes and different back spacings. They don't have a lot of different variety of the back spacings, but the 15 by 10 rear wheels that I got for mine, the Steelies, I think they are, don't quote me on this, I think they're 4 1/4 backspace. For the van, if you're not running flares, they're perfect. Because once you put a tire on it, it should run the tire just maybe a hair beyond the outer wheel width. But they have 7s and 8s, and they have a few different back spacings for each of those. I don't know if they would do a custom if you contacted them. They might, but I'm just putting that out there because a lot of people would normally ask that question. Thanks, Scooter. That's actually what I do for my job. Um, if you want to check it out, I don't know if you're on Facebook, you can check out. I'll just put it on here. Yeah, no, Roadkill thinks I should put basketball floor in the van, but I want like carpet. So yeah, but I build. My dad builds these. I've built a few of them, but I usually do pretty much all the graphics work on them. And it's a Brownsburg Bulldogs court. Yeah, Wheel Ventiques, and also if you like rally wheels, Wheel Ventiques does the wide. You can get really wide rally wheels. And I think you can even get the Magnum 500s and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I could do it on the wall. Like I definitely, when I get down to the paint on that van, you'll see what I have in mind. Um, it's kind of going to be a two-in-one van. One half of it will, it can be like, remember how Cheech and Chong in the movies they would take stuff off of their van and then throw it on if they wanted all the stuff to look like a lowrider. That's kind of what this fan would be in the respect that if I go to a show or an event like a basketball game or a tournament where I'm selling the basketball courts, I would put my logo for the courts on there and the colors all match. But if I'm going to a car show or I'm just driving around every day or I'm exhibiting it on the channel, we would have the Hoosier Garage on there. So it'd be kind of a two-in-one van, and that way you don't have to have two whole vehicles doing slightly different things. Cuddy, I am mostly a Mopar guy. Like I'm going to say 95%. I have had Camaros. I've done an LS swap in a Camaro. Now I never highlighted that on this channel because that was before I decided to do the channel. But I've had my hands in some GM stuff. Never really had much into Fords, but that doesn't mean I don't like anything else. I like certain Chevrolets. I like certain Pontiacs and Buicks and Oldsmobiles, and I like certain Fords and so on. Yeah, sealing in the van with the basketball court. Yeah, actually, Scooter. Here's a little information. See, you was going through Newcastle yesterday. They was having their basketball tournament, the Hall of Fame basketball tournament. They do it every year. In the last 3 years, outside of this year, I've been up there with my basketball courts, handing out business cards and making business and selling the ones that I took. It just because the way things are this year, it's been so crazy. They didn't have as many people there, so I just took a year off from doing it, a setup there, like a remote, so to speak. So hopefully next year, if things get back to normal, I'll set up there again. But usually does really good, and like I grew up there, and yes, a basketball game on a Friday and Saturday night would fill up, and on many occasions it still does. Cuddy, yeah. I think didn't we meet on was it Joe Daddy's garage? One of his chats. I think that's where I met you at on there, and that's I think when you came over and gave me a sub, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, and well, before I bought this Dodge, I was actually considering a Chevy from like the classic era, 70s, 80s, because I was thinking maybe doing another LS swap, but it would just be a van this time. But I kind of got nostalgic for my Mopar stuff again, and once I did that, I went pretty much head over heels with it, and I bought a Duster not long after that. So me getting back into the parts game and all that stuff again, it's been really kind of refreshing. So, yeah, correct. Yeah, 18. You see, it's funny, like in the van world, you see a lot of people that they could be a Ford, Chevy, or Dodge. They will paint their van to look like the 18 van with that red stripe stuff there. It's kind of wild. It's like the General E of the van world. Actually, Scooter, if you're still there, I've got a Newcastle quart. And these are harder to make because they're actually the parquet wood, so they're you might even be able to see the tone. They're individual squares. I glue them on. I put the paint on it, all that kind of stuff. So it's always a big hit. You don't see too many Charlie's Angels van. I think the only one I'd seen one. It was pink, and it made the magazines back in the early '80s, I think. I've had a handful of 318s. I never really built one though. I did intakes and carburetors and headers and timing chains and stuff like that, but I never did a tear down build. Now I did. Um, the only one I really completely tore down and completely rebuilt myself was a 360, which is not too different from the 318. And that was the first 360 I ever had. I did that. The next one I thought I was going to trust it to somebody else, so I actually had the machine shop do the short block, and then I did everything else. And it turned out it was the one that went in my Challenger. That second one came out pretty good. And the 318 that I fooled with was in that Challenger before I swapped it out. Cuddy, yeah, you're probably right. That last car I had that was a more modern Chrysler was that 300M. It was a 2000 model. My dad had it first, and he sold it to me, and it was like 235,000 miles, I think. And then it let go. But it was a very good car. I had a 96 Dakota for a long time. We had good luck with Dakotas, but we never had anything after 2000. Now, my dad's had some trucks. And there's just a lot of silly stuff that's gone bad on it. It should not be going bad. It's crazy. Thanks, Scoot. Yeah, 318s was kind of your bread and butter motor for a V8, and I have nothing against them. I actually the van has a 318 in it, and I'm pretty sure it's original. It's got all the numbers that kind of lead to it. It's got all 72 dates on it, 71 or 72 dates. But it was really well taken care of by the military through the motor pool. Because when I opened the valve cover up off of it, everything is clean. You can see the color of the steel or the iron in there. And so I thought, we're good here. I'm just going to give it an oil change after we get it running again. It does fire up. I have fired it up. And sounded good. But I had to get the fuel system on. Tails, you can send it to this one right here. You know, some of those vans, and I haven't seen one personally, I think around 76, 77, the Dodges, they was optional to get a 400 or a 440 motor. And I know a couple guys that have swapped over to that, but I've not seen a factory on it. And some of them was even the short wheelbase. And the LS swap Camaro, I did not tune it myself. What I had done, I got a 5.3 from a and transmission with the computer. It was all the whole ball. That's the way you want to really get that thing. And I think it came from an 02 Silverado 1500. I got all the necessary mechanical items like the oil pan and the intake. I got an LS6 intake on it. And built the whole air intake that come off of it, off the front. Replaced any injectors or sensors that it needed, because I was able to test a lot of the injectors and feel them was bad. So I replaced those. And I sent the computer and the harness to a fellow named Andy Bryant in Oregon, and it's LSX Specialties. And what he did was, he does what a lot of these guys do. He did the tune on it, but he asked me, he said, what are you looking for here? And I said, I want like a driver that allows me to get a little bit better, like the mid power range, and just the stock cam. I didn't get into it any. And had shorty headers on it, so I explained that to him. And I had an LS6 intake. He said that did kind of matter. And so he just kind of tweaked things around. He took the vats out of it and all that other stuff. And fired it right up when I got it all together. Just wired it in. No big deal. I had one problem with it, though. And I think it was just a physical thing. One of the O2 sensors off the header on the passenger side, I was coming down the interstate, and I think I had the radio on, so the car was mildly quiet. I had MagnaFlows on it and stuff, but I went to hit the gas and wasn't going anywhere, and I looked down and the check engine light was on it, so I rolled over to the side of the road, and it let me put it in limp mode, and I was able to drive home and checked it out. And I think one of the wires got a little too close to the header, and it didn't melt it, but I think it threw the signal off or something. But I tied it up and loomed it properly, and I didn't have the problem after that. I ended up selling the car to a guy in Washington, and like he immediately took the motor out, sold it, and then put an LS3 in it. So I thought it was enough with the 5.3, but I guess he wanted more. So you have a 02 Silverado 5.3 in yours too. Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I had. I think they're good motors. They're great motors, and I see why everybody is big about them. There was one thing I didn't like about it. I can't remember what it was. If I think of it, I'll mention it. It was a fun swap to do. I got the plates. The things I did like about it, the transmission, was that you could use the original 350 yoke in it. And the transmission mount, it fit the same on that, but you just had to move the mount back on the subframe. And then just put the adapter plates on there, use the original motor mounts, and mechanically you had it in where you wanted it. And then you wire it up like a stereo, that computer, and then runs and drives. I got the drive shaft. I did not have to get one cut. My friend gave me, actually Dale, who was on some of our videos, he had some Mustang parts. He had an LX Mustang, I think it was in 1991. He had parts for it. He had the drive shaft. It was an aluminum drive shaft, a real big one. And he gave it to me. He said, see if this works. And I measured it, and it was only 1/8 of an inch shorter than what I needed. But that worked because you had that play in it. So I got some Ford GM U joints on each end, and fit it right up to the 10 bolt, and it was good. Yeah, and that's too bad that people, they like to talk smack like that. Like, everybody, I don't know, it's like an insecurity. Everybody thinks you have to build something up. I'm of the school that if it's, and this is from experience and maybe a little bit of my dad talking, but if there's nothing wrong with something, don't mess with it. Just leave it as is. So I was happy the thing ran good. So I wasn't going to get in there and tear it apart and start changing stuff. And then, because it was, in my world, it was fast enough. I don't need to go faster than anybody else. I don't race people. So I kind of looked at it as like kind of a waste. Yeah, and it'll snowball on you, because when I was younger, I would do that. I remember the 318 I had in the Challenger. I had a friend who was just big on, oh, you need to do this too. You need to, and the car ran beautiful. Had a 2-barrel on it. But he was like, you need to put a cam in it. You need to put it. And so I was like, I succumbed to the pressure, and I went and got a mild comp cam, put it in there, and I put the 4-barrel and the carburetor on it, intake, and that was fine. But something, and being early on, I did not know what I was doing. I think it was degreed backwards or something. I think the timing was way off, and it did not run that good, and it eventually blew a hole in the piston. But I was quite a bit younger, and so that stuff like that sticks with me. I was just like, I could have avoided that. So I'm from that school of thought. If you have it apart, anyways, because it needs a rebuild, and that's typical when you get into the old Mopar stuff, then you do what you plan it out and figure out what you're going to do. And if you need help with something, don't be afraid to ask somebody. Don't try to fool anybody thinking, oh, I can do this or that, and then you end up making a fool of yourself. Yeah. Yeah, let me pull my email. I think this is. I'm going to rebuild the carburetor because obviously we'll need it. But it's been well taken care of. I'm not going to just start doing stuff. Plus, it's a van that I'm not, they don't get great gas mileage anyway because of the way they're shaped. So let's just keep it on the economy level. And that way it's always running and you can kind of rely on it. Now the Duster, we can extend ourselves on that one and do something. Let's see. Switch my over. Let's see what we got. EFI conversions. I see a lot of guys doing like the Sniper Holly conversions. I say if you have it planned out and that's really what you want to do, then go for it. The ones that bother me is the guys that are just kind of feeling their way through stuff. Like the guys that buy a stereo and then they buy some wheels because it's what they find. It's like, and then they never have a car that's really that great. Those are the kind of guys that I'll buy the EFI and I put it on there and then they screw everything up. But if you have a plan and you've kind of got it all worked out, that's the ones to follow. And I haven't really ruled that out for anything in the future because the way the gas is, sometimes these carburetors are just going to be really finicky. So it might be one of the things where you have a mostly original, in my case, a Mopar, but you just change that induction system on it where if you have to and it makes the car run better and it makes it more efficient, or you can actually get in and rely on it, then that's what you're probably gonna have to do. But I think that's kind of a down the road thing. But if you really want EFI and you want it on the car, plan it out. I have no problem with it. If you do clean installs, like if Tails decided to do that on one of his cars, I would be like, perfect, because he does clean installations and he follows through all the channels, and it's like you're good to go. Yeah. Be careful what I wish for. Well, my thing, and when we talk about the channel, I pull up the phone. Um, like you can. Yeah, so if there's one of those tempting cases. If I was getting down to the, the final run on the Duster, and maybe I'm sitting there thinking about the van, maybe even the van, I don't know. But if they wanted to pay me to do something, then okay, let's put an EFI conversion in it, but no, if GM came by and said, "Hey, do you want to put a LS swap in your Duster?" I'll be like, "No, no." And they go, "But you did one before." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't like. I don't. I'm not big on mixing brands. It makes me feel weird." Yeah, I wish Holly would pay me. Yeah, I mean, I mean, one thing about it, I could speak to this. Super Clean has sent me a pack of stuff, and I'm actually working on a video to doing a. They asked if I would do a giveaway, and basically give away the same package of cleaning supplies that they gave me to one of you guys. So I'm trying to set up a video to where, and they would direct some people to my channel, and if somebody likes my channel, then I would get more subscriptions that way, and then you all would like Super Clean and stuff like that. So I'm working on a video, and there'll be a couple of questions. If you be the first to answer them, blah blah blah, then you win like a free box of Super Clean. So yeah, I'll try to get that out there. That's cool, but it's not like they're giving me a bunch of money or anything. But it's still great because I'm using the stuff. I need it. And now listen, enough. Now, actually, I'm wondering. Roadkill brings up a certain point. He says he hates when they put an LS in Oldsmobile. Now, I know the GM crowd is a little. They look at things differently. They get like ultra competitive between the divisions, like Pontiac versus Chevrolet and Oldsmobile versus Buick and all of that. But like coming from the Mopar side, you put a Plymouth engine in a Dodge and nobody thinks anything. It's the same. It's the same thing. You just market it differently. So if you have Oldsmobile no longer exist anymore, but LS Motors would be the corporate motor. Why is it you hate that? Is it because it's specifically branded as a Chevrolet engine? Yeah. Yeah, Mopar Nut's got a you can really go out there and tempt people or use sex to sell something and get all the views, but that's you're not really working hard towards it. You're not doing it really, honestly, so to speak. I guess. Would you take a 350 Rocket out of a 71 Cutlass and put in an LS? Probably not. But here's my train of thought on that sort of thing. When I bought my '81 Camaro, it did not have an engine in it. Had nothing in it. It was actually it was like ready for the junkyard. It was very missing everything. So I initially thought maybe I'd put a through fit because the car was maybe a little bit newer. Um, I had a different take on that car. But at the same I don't mind seeing a '70 Camaro with an LS swap in it. It's all about taste. If you do things tastefully, then you can do a lot of things. Have I considered doing a modern Hemi swap in like the Duster? Yeah, I know they're kind of a tight squeeze. You got to do some cutting and stuff, but I don't know how serious that is. You kind of like the old. If you got an old car, you kind of like the old method, but it's just. I think it's all dependent on the situation. Each situation has a different angle, all of that sort of stuff. Is that the 305 that Vice Grip? Is that the one that he built for that '69 Camaro? Him and his son was kind of dilly dallying with it. Tails has a really interesting take. A '90s Aurora supercharger. Wow. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about, Scooter. Vice Grip, he's got a good channel because he doesn't do all the cheap stuff. And when I say cheap, I mean like, morally cheap stuff to get views. He keeps it all clean. It's like for the family kind of stuff, and you got to respect him for that. It's great. And he has more subs than most of them out there. Now, Tails, I see the cover. That's it. I remember, I don't. That's one I didn't have, but I remember seeing. I was thinking it sounded. I was thinking of. That's a sweet one. Now, did you say does he still have it or not? Because I figure I'd see it on your channel if he still had it. Yeah, he likes his wobble pop. Check, make sure I didn't. It was kind of busy there in the chat for a minute. I want to make sure I didn't miss something. Oh, okay. I took care of answering G's question about the fuel wheel. V8 swap your Fiero. How would that work, anyways? Does that have like a transaxle on them or something? I wish, and I'm sure somebody's done it. I wish somebody would take a Corvair and put an engine in front. Yeah, Pontiac 455. Would it even fit in there? That's such a compact space in the back of those cars. I used to see Fieros a lot. Now, okay, guys, I'm going to throw something out there. Yeah, Tornado transaxle. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to throw something out there. Let's say down the road, if I'm doing the channel here in a few years, we've got the van done, we've got the Duster done, and we've kind of dodged Daytona, the little compact hatchback car. They had typically little 4 cylinders in them, and they were front. What about the idea of turning it into a rear-wheel drive, which Mopar Performance used to have a kit to do that, but a rear-wheel drive Daytona with and you can go either direction, either a modern Hemi, like a 5.7 or whatever, or go an old LA based small block Chrysler from the 70s. And then you would put your own steering gear in it or whatever that needed changed. But like an 84 Daytona, rear wheel drive, look externally pretty stock, but when you open the hood, you would have the V8 rear wheel drive. situation. And it made me think that the other day when I went to that junkyard, he had like 2 or 3 of the cars in there. So it might be worth pulling one out, mothballing it. $360 Yeah. I mean, if you do, and what I'm thinking, see, usually when people do that kind of stuff, they make a race car, put plexiglass in, and they take the interior out. I like to do things to look like this is how the factory looks, that kind of thing. Or if the factory did a retro swap, this is how they do it. So you'd have like a full interior, the car would be painted era correct, and it would be very drivable. You could put your wife or your daughter in it or something like that, and it would just be, like really usable and like appealing. Oh, you talking about the Impalas that have like 5.3s in them? Yeah, it's like there's certain things that are different about those because of the transmission situation. I know a guy that bought one of those brand new, and he complained of the torque steer. He said the torque steer was too bad in it. Of course, what's the kind of the rule of thumb? 300 horsepower torque steer. Any more than that, it gets a little uncomfortable. $260. That's a Ford, isn't it? Now I had a couple 225 slant sixes. Had one in actually had a couple of them. I had a 4-door 73 Dart that had a 225 slant six, and I had a 73 Dart Sport with a slant six. And they did their job. Especially the 4-door. It was a little better taken care of. It'd cruise 85 miles an hour, no problem. Hell, I think a 276 gear in it. Always started. Tails, that kind of sounds like the Hemi under glass, but like with all-wheel drive. Oh, the Chevy. That's right. See, the Ford had a 250. That's right. 250 and a 300. And then the Chevy was a 260. The Chevy N16. Mid-engine. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. One of these old magazines. Let me see if I can find it. It had an AMX in it, circa 1971. I think 70 or 71. And he put the engine way back in it, and he built the firewall, and he set himself in the middle of it. I will find the picture here. It's in this magazine. Let's see. November 1970. 83 Coast had a 263. Wow. And it was an 83, so it probably had a bunch of emission stuff on it too, I'm guessing. Oh, and what's funny about this magazine? I think it was like printed in New York, or is based out of New York. And I'll have to read some of the stuff. It's like so funny, like the way they would describe things that will show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, hey, look what I found in my magazine chat. I figured since I got them here, I might as well. It does highlight the brand new Hot 71 Mopar. basically factory promo pictures. Okay, here it is. Built for street only. It's a blown AMX super street car. This is all in old black and white. But you're looking at the steering wheel here, and then the other picture, that's him setting it in the center of the car, but he's almost in the back seat. And you can see the firewall that he built. It would be back about where the shifter would have normally been in the car. And he's got a diamond tuft upholstery in there. Hey, Tails, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a happy new year, all right? And I'll move it up here, and you'll see there's the car from the outside. Looks pretty normal except for tinted windows. The engine was set back 50%. The tinted glass and driver position make it seem that the car has no driver. I wonder if that car still exists. Yes, this was 50 years and 1 month ago. And here's a picture of the engine close up right here. I can hold it steady. It's really hard to tell, but you can see the headers about your feet or your legs if you're sitting in a normal car. Patty, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to you as well. Okay, so let's talk about some of the funny stuff they would say. We have a review of the brand new 70 Firebirds. They've got a formula. Let's see, make sure I get it right. The Trans Am, and then the Formula 400. Now, if you look, here's the formula. And then right here, there's the Trans Am. Now, keep these in your mind, each of them. And here's what it says. The Trans Am Firebird looks like a regular Firebird with glandular problems. We guess that all the scoops and spoilers are designed to make up for an obsolete engine and just average performance. 400 V8, 345 horsepower, 430 foot-pounds of torque. It says Formula 400 has twin air scoops. The Trans Am, though, has the shaker hood, and it's better. The interior is cute, and the mini wheel is boss. And the shaker scoop is a hot setup for the Firebirds. And what they suggest in this article from 1970 is if you really want to see this bird fly, here's what you do. Order the Formula 400, and you don't need all the spoilers and the air damage stuff to go drag racing. Forget about the Ram air package. It won't help too much. Then it says replace the awful hydraulic lifters and valve springs with some better gear, such as this gear. Finally, as a muscle car, the Trans Am has a lot of potential, but because of this very fact, it's not quite a match in showroom form to a number of competitive types. Neither, for that matter, is the GTO, which has been riding on its reputation in stock form for several years now. Remember, 1970. Calendectomy. Oh, I thought that was funny. Looks like a Firebird with glandular problems. Yeah, and you don't see that Formula hood very much. There was actually a guy up here near me. He had a blue Formula, and it had those dual scoops on it. And I always thought those scoops, the openings of them, looked exactly like the dual snorkel scoops on like the Dart Sports Demons Dusters. Like they came from the same manufacturer. They just made the back part of it different. The writer is gay. It seemed like there was some they just had a weird journalistic approach to these things. Yeah, it was like the Bronx, New York, Brooklyn. That must have been where. Actually, Mopar Nut, you still there? New York and New Jersey. Racers and speed shops. Let's see if there's an address on here. S&S Speed, Atlantic Avenue, Richmond Hill, New York, and then South State Street in Hackensack, New Jersey. Good stuff. Neighborhood squirrel's favorite feature. Yes. When I dragged my duster home, it was probably the same deal. It was full of nutshells in it, but no cow induction. Hey, look, we're in the last hour of 2020. Well, 17 minutes past. So it's almost over. We'll just have another horrible year to look forward to. You know it's going to be a challenge. Bigfoots and Mopars, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to you too. And thank you for visiting as much as you do. Squirrels don't discriminate, but some people blame them personally. Do I think a Valiant or a Dart with a slant 6 would be the most reliable 60s daily drivable classic? Possibly. You're looking at points ignition, even, yeah. You wouldn't be far from it. Relatively simple cars, and they used a lot of those parts through the whole run of Valiant and Dart. So, but that's a little bit of me being biased because I just don't know enough about like a Falcon or something like that, or Chevy 2. I don't know about their ignition systems or anything like that. But I would imagine they could be, yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking the other day, I saw a couple of them in that junkyard. A couple 4-doors, a couple 2-doors, a couple Barracudas. 60, like 60 64 through 66 model. But you can find like a 68 Valiant, plain Jane car. Probably those in particular. When you got it like 67, 68, 69, if you want to stay in the 60s, the 67 through 69 models, Valiant or Dart will probably be the best. Scooter, you take care. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night and Happy New Year. Yeah, and I would imagine as long as you stay away from anything that was really gimmicky, even in the 60s, you're probably all right. Basic economy cars, because they worked then, and as long as you keep them up now, the materials are the same, you should be good. All right, Mopar Nut, you're one of our regulars. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the great year. Happy New Year. I think one of the cars my mom learned to drive in was like a 60 Valiant. The first year. Really ugly car, but and if you want to get into the 70s, I do not detour people from the early 70s versions of those cars, Darts, Valiants. Even with the electronic ignition, that's probably the best electronic ignition from that era. If you're asking me what I would be doing on New Year's Eve if it weren't for COVID, I would probably be doing something very similar to this. Thanks, Mopar Nut. You too, buddy. Roadkill, you sound like you have an excellent wife. She's very understanding of this nonsense that we partake of. Yeah, she's watching TV and sleeping. Nothing wrong with that. That sounds relaxing. Joe, one thing to consider too, and it might not be a big deal, but I think around 70 or 71, at least Chrysler, they adapted their kickdown situation on the transmissions, the passing gear sort of thing, and they kind of modernized it there. And I don't know how really better to explain it, but for modern drivability, with everybody zipping in and out and you wanting to get around people, if you needed to, it would be much more usable, I guess you could say, in like a 70, let's safely say 71 and up. Other things to consider, if you want something that will stop better generally, I know sometimes the Mopar drum brakes are pretty good, but if you find a disc brake car, for instance, you have stuff like electronic ignition, disc brakes, possibly air conditioning if that matters. Power steering is more likely. You are more likely to have a sway bar in the front of the car, which is better for handling, obviously. And but you're still simple enough. It doesn't have pure electronics and stuff like that. If you get into a 74, and this is from personal experience, if you get into a 74, particularly in a Duster, Dart, A-body car, they can be a nightmare because they have the seatbelt interlock system, and sometimes that throws your wiring into confusion, and you have to rewire stuff. And you think you're bypassing this, but it ends up relaying. There's a bunch of relays, and it's just crazy. Aspen Volare disc brake. The spindles don't bolt on, or they don't fit in. I don't believe. I think they're the same rotors. There's the same dust shields, and the calipers I think are the same. But I think you need the A-body upper control arm and then the spindle. The lower control arm is interchangeable among all of them, but the upper control arm and the spindle itself from there out. So, but Joe, I would, if you find a 73 with disc brakes in the front. Now, remember, not all cars that are A-bodies like a Dart or a Duster Valiant are going to have them. Those are. Some people swear they do, but I swear they don't. I've had several cars that did not have them. It was an option, but it was a more likely option. It was more available from 73 and up. And for instance, I had a 73 Dart Sport, had a slant six, air conditioning, power steering, all that stuff was good. But it had manual drum brakes in it. Not bad, they stopped good. But they didn't have a sway bar, so when you'd make sudden corners, that car would roll bad. And so I ended up getting a sway bar for it, and the lower control arms that had tabs where you can bolt it up. And it handled good after that. Still didn't have the greatest brakes. But I had a 74 Dart that had front sway bar already on it, had front disc brakes, and it was a power steering car originally. And that's a different story. Somebody swapped it over to manual, which is not a big deal. But really good car because the ignitions were still simple. It was electronic ignition. It wasn't points, but it was the electronic. It was still very reliable. And you had a lot of handling features that was more modern. You had the transmission that kicked down good. But it was also right before they really started bogging them down with emissions. But you had also, here's another thing that if you don't want to add a bunch of stuff to an old car, you had coolant recovery on them. So one thing that would be frowned on now, if you had like a 66 Valiant and it's all stopped, if you go to shut your ignition off, the car's been running up and down hot, it just takes all that coolant out on the ground. Well, by 73, it would have had a coolant tank or recovery to spit it into, come back out. That way, you pull in somebody's parking lot and somebody's screaming at you and want to call the EPA on you because you don't have spitting it all out all over the ground. Silly stuff like that. So I genuinely think 73 is a sweet spot year for a car that adapts to modern life, but also has the simplicity of just an old car, and it has just as much reliability. Now, if you're like me and you like swapping stuff around, and get this to fit here, I got a 72. That's a bad year for disc brakes. They weren't that common. They weren't that common to have sway bars. They had small bolt pattern, but I'm going to swap everything from a 73 or 74 into them. I know that's long-winded, but that's my opinion. And I will be right back. Then I will probably shut down and say goodbye. This was here. Yeah, you got a new logo. It looks like that's cool. All about branding, man. All about branding. Make it clean and simple. Mopar held on the drums the longest. Yeah, they probably did. I think I would say 76. That's when they dropped the A bodies. They probably went all the way to 76 at least, and I don't know if anything else they would have kept them on. Maybe a truck or two, but that's what you kind of got bad timing. I'm glad you showed up, but I'm about ready to jump off here for the night. There's now a half hour left in this crummy year that we call 2020. And if any of you haven't already, if you don't mind, hit the like button or hit the dislike button. Either one. It's all considered engagement. Appreciate y'all coming in tonight, especially spending it with me on basically a holiday. And yeah, it wasn't in there. It's like more people. Hard to do that, but hey, trust me. And so if y'all like the channel, make sure you share, like, subscribe if you aren't already. Really appreciate it. Appreciate what y'all have been this year, and that's pretty daggone loyal. 10:32. Yeah, it's 11:32 here. God bless USA and God bless all of you all. All right, guys, I'm going to take off. Again, Happy New Year. God bless. And we'll be seeing you in the next video. Hopefully, probably Sunday night or Monday morning. Take care.